Waterline, submarines, super battleships, and other news. See, we're here to share some info about new content that will be landing in-game in the near future. See, submarines, people still thought, like, I think they mentioned that they've been working on submarines since 2017. And if they work on anything for this long, that means there's no doubt that it will be added to the game. Your feedback is irrelevant. Wargaming is all about sunk cost fallacy. CV rework is a good example. If the time has been spent on making, on building it, on making it, it will be added regardless of how negative the feedback is. That's just a simple fact. Submarines have come a long way. I wouldn't... Shit, it's already the first sentence and I already disagree. I feel like they've gone backwards. Every submarine test, there's different mechanics and they're always terrible. How can I be the first, like... I mean, I guess they've isolated things that don't work. Basically all of it. Since the announcement in the summer of 2019, we have gone through 3 tests. A temporary submarine battle event on the main server, and again a test on a separate server in October 2020. During this time, a lot of feedback and statistics were collected. Yeah, we know how well they listen to our feedback. Truly. I believe statistics were collected. That part I believe. They love their spreadsheet. But feedback, X for down. Big goddamn X for down. On the basis of which changes have been made to almost all the mechanics associated with the new ship type. Oxygen meter replaced by battery charge. Updated sonar ping. Added anti-submarine capabilities to a number of battleships and cruisers. The fact that they needed our feedback to realize that, hey, fighting against a class where we have no tools whatsoever isn't exactly very enjoyable. The fact that they needed us to tell them that, hey, by the way, like, half the classes in the game can't do shit about this ship. You should probably fix it. The fact that they needed to be told this is, I mean, it's a level of baffling that I can't even understand, but... Change diving mechanics. Oh, because the diving mechanics... Once again, they need to be told that people sitting at 5.7 meters and then going 100 meters below the surface to go immune? Like, okay, seriously? These and many other improvements have been made based on test results, but work is ongoing, and today we will share further plans and upcoming changes. Oh, Jesus. Submarine changes. Regarding the latest stage of submarine test, the following changes have been applied. Battery power is now limited. Battery power is now limited in duration and cannot be normally recharged. So what? Depending on the nation and tier of the sub, the battery will allow for 5 to 11 minutes of being submerged per battle. This is the laziest, most ham-fisted solution I've ever seen. The problem was, subs could sit underwater for too long and be immune and make the game boring. The obvious solution to this was to make sure that submarines can't stay underwater if they're out of power and force them to come up on the surface to recharge. This was the obvious solution. But instead of going for this solution, they make it so that there's no way of charging the batteries. So you're stuck with this set bar of battery charge, and when it runs out, you're done. It's ridiculously lazy. It is the dumbest, laziest thing ever. Like, I don't have an issue with being like, so submarine comes to the surface, diesel engines start, your detection range goes up significantly. Like, your detection range goes up a lot because you're running the diesel engines and you're charging the battery. That's fine. That way, like, positioning is important. You position somewhere and you recharge the battery, and then you can go back dive and you can engage, and then you reposition again to surface and recharge the battery. That's intelligent playing. But obviously Wargaming doesn't want anything resembling intelligence. This is starting to remind me of the CV rework. They want nothing resembling intelligent play or tactical play. You have a sit charge like a fucking arcade bar full of your resource, and once that, I mean, they call it battery power, but like, they can call it whatever they want. They can literally call it fairy dust. you have 5 minutes of fairy dust. And once your 5 minutes of fairy dust runs out, well, you're no longer a submarine, you're a really shitty surface ship. Like, it's the dumbest mechanic I've ever seen. It's just, they hate smart players. Yeah, I agree with that. They hate tactical and smart play, and they hate concealment. This is like the laziest thing I've ever seen. This is like CVs regenerating planes, or like this is like, or CVs not being allowed to control their own ship. It's right up there with lazy design. And you like one, it's just, oh, fuck me. If a submarine is detected, the battery charge is expended faster. What? Well, then this clearly this isn't battery power. This is like imaginary fairy dust. And imaginary fairy dust only exists if no one can see it. But if you see it, then it starts disappearing by itself. What the fuck is this? What is this? This is so dumb. What? So you have a resource that can't be recharged, and if you get detected, this limited resource disappears faster. Therefore, your goal in the game will be to remain undetected at all costs throughout the match. Which means obviously you want to sit at the edge of your range at all times. This is going to make it incredibly campy, isn't it? With a depleted battery, the submarine can only be on the surface and will no longer be able to dive for the rest of the battle. Battery charge will be an important reason for submarine commander and will allow for only a limited time underwater, giving other ships the ability to counter submarines. You could have given them the ability to counter submarines just by forcing them to surface to recharge. The problem was they had this dumbass mechanic where subs could recharge their batteries underwater, which never made any sense, and that's why subs sat under the water permanently. This is such a dumb solution. This is the laziest thing I've ever seen. Like, what? This is so dumb. So, you know what? What the hell? This is so dumb. Why not just surface, start diesel engines, charge battery, and dive again? And big concealment penalty when you're charging the diesel engine and not being able to charge the battery while underwater. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Like, what? The submarine's detectability radius now decreases linearly with depth. This is good. This will avoid submarine situation when submarines instantly disappear from enemy side. This is actually good. This is how it should have been from the start. Instead of the you're spotted at 5, you go 50 meters underwater, you're spotted at 3. Like this is actually one good change here. Thank God. We needed to go this deep to get one good change. And in an underwater environment for most of the maps, including seabed relief and the underwater parts of islands. This innovation will help submarines navigate the battlefield while submerged. You know, this came at a significant cost. It's been 16 months since a new map was added to World of Warships. They took the entire map-making department, they took the entire art department who was in charge of innovation. Yeah, they took the entire department that was in charge of making maps, and they put them to making underwater worlds for maps that we already have to implement a class that no one seems to really actually want because the implementation is so terrible. We used to have maps every 6 months or so. We haven't had a new map in 16 months. The last new map was added was Northern Waters, which was basically Islands of Ice turned on its side. And this was added in January, announced in January 2020. 16 months ago. So, yeah, so this is where it went. This is what the mapping department has been doing. Due to changes in the mechanics of detecting submarines and methods of countering, the hydrophone has been removed from destroyers. Okay, so you could no longer get the ping. Hydrophone isn't hydroacoustic search, it's the ping that showed you where to go to drop your depth charges. So that part is now gone. That's not hydroacoustic search, that's the whole hydrophone mechanic. So they just removed the entire thing, which they spent so much time working out, and now they completely removed them. Okay. The commander skill tree for submarines have been added, and the skills of the other classes will be amended to counter submarines. So another commander skill rework. Another commander skill rework. And now you have to... The skills of the other classes will be amended to counter submarines. So that means that how well you deal with subs will scale based on your captain points to some extent. To some extent. I mean, we've seen how little the AA skills, for example, scale. So you already, after the commander rework, you basically have the same builds as before. They're just more expensive. But now you have to build specifically against two different classes. You have to build specifically against carriers, and you have to build specifically against submarines, while at the same time trying to build any sort of normal build. Like, no one has any points to spare anymore. They made old builds worse. And now you're supposed to build against subs as well? I don't understand. Like, this is going to be terrible. How on earth are they going to get any sort of balance out of this? And what, like... A new type of torpedo for submarines has been added. We'll publish details about the new weapons and other features later. Yay! I can't wait. Because I'm sure it's going to be even better than the current torpedoes that home in on the target and ignore the torpedo protection. Like, both those mechanics are horrendous. No one asked for it. Everyone hates it. And they're like, no, this is a great idea. This is a great idea. Like, what's the point of playing a battleship with good torpedo protection when subs can ignore the torpedo protection? And then the fact that they make the torps homing as well, it's like, yikes. There's so much terrible, so much bad. I don't understand. What are they doing? The next step in submarine testing will be another sandbox test, and following that, submarines will appear in the public test of a future update. Adding a new class to the game is a serious step that requires detailed preparation. Funny, CV rework didn't seem to require too much detailed preparation and many testing stages. Last year we conducted several tests for submarines, including the submarine battle in event 0.9.4. The results were positive. Every single video I watched about subs, every single video I made about all the different stages, every single video I saw, all the feedback I read on the forum, the Reddit, the Discord, was of the opinion that the submarines are shit. Horrendously boring to play, horrendously boring to play against. Every feedback I read was negative. Positive. I was like, I don't know who they're lying to at this point. Are they trying to lie to us? Are they trying to lie to themselves? This doesn't... Results were most certainly not positive. In fact, people who were hyped for submarines were no longer hyped after they got to play Wargaming's version of submarines. Like, they lost interest at that point. A supposedly strategical tactical ship is now some sort of fairy dust powered thing that runs out of power and then is a surface. Like, what the? It actually gotten worse. But we have not collected as much data as we planned, because such modes have less incentive to play for a long period of time compared to ranked or random battles. Therefore, if the previous two testing steps would be successful, this doesn't actually matter. This is just nonsense. They're gonna do this. This is like when they say, if feedback to subs are positive, we will add submarines, and then when feedback is negative, they just say, oh, it was very positive. Trust us, Tovarich. Very positive. So this entire part. Therefore, you can delete this, like you can press delete. Therefore, ignore. Submarines will appear in a special season of ranked battles on the main server. In general, players spend a significant number of battles in ranked, so we hope this will allow us to collect enough statistics and gradually prepare submarines for implementation into other battle modes. I love that ranked has literally become second fiddle to random battles. Ranked has literally become a lower grade of gameplay than random battles. That's what they've done with their sprints and shit. There's so many, like, so much stupidity involved in this. Submarines, first of all, they're putting submarines in ranked. Like, the idea is, because such modes have less incentive to play for a long period of time. Have they ever considered that if subs were actually fun to play and fun to play against, people would be playing them? You don't need to force people to play something they enjoy. If people are having a good time, people will play that stuff. That's kind of how it works. That's how games in general work. So the reason why people aren't playing these is because no one wants to. And Wargaming is well aware of this, so they shove them into ranked, where people are farming their coal and their steel, their rewards, basically. So they're basically gating ranked rewards behind playing with submarines, because they really want you to play with submarines and play submarines. Like, this is baffling. In general, players spend a significant number of battles in ranked. So, oh, Jesus. Gating steel behind beta testing their awful decisions. Yep, that's basically it. And they still, all of this was the entire submarine section, and they still are not addressing the main issue. The main issue, my major complaint I've had, and one that many other people have shared, is the feeling of emptiness. You gotta understand, or when we play the submarine games, or submarines test games, the server felt abandoned. Clearly, the emptiness, yes. Now imagine 7 versus 7 ranked. 7 versus 7 ranked. The enemy gets a carrier. You're not going to see him, so you're not going to fight him. So it's actually more like 6 versus 6. The enemy has, let's be conservative and say that there's only 2 DDs. I mean, I've been seeing 4 DD games on my ranked matches, but let's pretend they only have 2 DDs. So that's 4 versus 4. But now we have subs as well. So of course, there's going to be incentives probably to play this, and people are going to be wanting to play them. And so let's be conservative and say there's only 2 submarines as well. So that's 5 out of 7 ships that you're basically probably not going to see all match, and you're not going to be shooting at, and you're basically not going to take part. So now we have a 2 versus 2, and once again, let's be generous and say 1 is a cruiser. Let's say it's, or if it's a Smolensk or something, or just a island-hugging cruiser, you're probably not going to be seeing or shooting him much either. So it's basically going to be that 1 enemy battleship on the enemy team, and then it's that 1 you in your battleship, and then you take pot shots at each other as you get randomly spotted by all sorts of stealth bullshit, planes coming in, and torps, deporting torps, homing torpedoes from fucking subs, whatever. So you two are shooting against each other, and it feels like a 1 versus 1, except everyone is out there to hunt you. Like, that was the main issue with all the submarine test, was the servers felt abandoned. Because such a large percentage of the surface ships were stealth ships or not taking part in the battle. That was one of the major complaints. And in ranked, this will be even worse. Much, much worse. It's going to be the most awful experience. And they still don't address this. Like, even in random battles, like even in the future, they push through this bullshit, and then these things arrive in random battles. So on random battles, we got 3-4 DDs, and then we got 3 submarines, and then we got a carrier, and you got like 5 versus 5 surface ships. That was the main problem with the test, was they still haven't told us, are they going to be limiting the numbers, or more importantly, are they going to be upgrading the servers so that they can increase the number of players? Because if you want to add subs to World of Warships, you need to make it from 12 versus 12 to something like 15 versus 15. You need to make it something like 15 versus 15, because otherwise it feels so empty and so boring. And that was one of the main reasons that it sucked to play subs, and why it was so goddamn boring to play subs, was if you played anything except the DD or a submarine, you were bored out of your mind. There was nothing to fight. There was literally nothing to shoot at, nothing to fight. You're like 1 or 2 ships on both sides, and it was a terrible experience. And they still have not addressed this. So, and the servers can't handle 15 versus 15. There's already huge amounts of desync and server issues with 12 versus 12. So upgrading to 15 versus 15 isn't going to work. So for this reason alone, I don't see how they could possibly implement submarines into World Warships. I don't see it viable. Not just because of their absolute trash design, but like they don't have the server power for it. They just don't have the hardware to support any sort of engaging gameplay. And then you need bigger maps. Like if you make it 15 versus 15, then you probably have to increase the map. Like there's so many huge obstacles that they're just going to try to push through. Geriatrixer, you need to come up with some new content. I know you're a big epic troll in my chat, but come up with some good new content now. But like, it's gonna be trash. That's the problem. It's gonna be trash in basically every way. Servers are limited by Big World Engine more than anything. Yeah, the engine is shit. You guys gotta remember that, for example, the old CVs. If there were 2 CV games with the old CVs and there were multiple squadrons in the air, the servers used to lag to shit. The server cannot handle that much. The engine can't handle it. The engine is incredibly limited. Like, incredibly limited. Like, one of the stated explanation they gave for not allowing carriers to control their own ships was something like, oh, players couldn't handle it. But one of the main reasons is probably the fact that you can't bind multiple things to WASD in World of Warships. It's very hard. Like, that's why they only autopilot to control your ship and WASD to move your planes. 75 FPS limit as well, yes. Remember when Smolensk was added and shells weren't rendering? It's still an issue. Smolensk shoots too many shells, so that's why blind firing a Smolensk is very difficult. The engine can't handle so many shells coming out of the barrels at the same time, so they don't render them properly. So this engine is basically a dumpster fire, and now they're trying to squeeze in all these new mechanics, underwater worlds, all of this stuff onto this old engine. I don't see how this can in any way lead to anything good. Stevie Legend, thank you for the 33. It's terrible. Honestly, the design is terrible. The mechanics involved seem terrible. The gameplay itself is just going to be boring, because this is not strategical or tactical. This is just make sure you don't get detected. Did they mention anything about the subs here? What did they talk about with the subs?
Presenters, and with me here
about commander skills rework. We're going to let's start off with talking about the commander skill rework. Quite a bit of time has passed since we initially implemented
a stage of the that we have reset.
I want to see the sub part here. If there's anything we missed.
2017. You'll remember that in 2018 you could play Submarines in a special Halloween game mode. In 2019, the two of us were live on stage in Cologne, Germany, announcing Submarines coming to World of Warships. Hopefully, some of you were there.
And they've already used it in ads. Did you know they already used it in advertisement?
We had a special game mode where you guys could play Submarines.
Very special.
And now we're ready to...
Initially, we added how it's actually
on a special public test server this summer.
Special.
We really strongly encourage and invite you
in ranked battles. Now, the reason why we decided to go for ranked battles instead of a special mode is that in special modes there is not a really big long-term motivation for players to stick around. Well, this will be the case in ranked battles without influencing your experience in random battles.
They're literally putting it behind coal and steel.
Our team is currently hard at work at preparing the underwater world for the introduction of submarines. Most maps are actually not just for submarines threat.
Speaking of counterplay to submarines, we made changes to its mechanics. The battery lifetime is now actually limited in duration during battle, depending on the tier, nation, or characteristics of the submarines, and is currently at a value of roughly 5 to 11 minutes, which will make a big impact on how to play submarines and against them, especially during mid to late game.
Yeah, like you don't want to submerge or you don't want to take any risks, do you, with your time? You just want to sit and hold on to your radar duration, because what if you run out of your battery life like with 5 minutes left in the game, you're going to be useless those 5 minutes. So you might as well exit the port at that point. So you just want to camp and save it.
Such as hydroacoustic search or radar.
Wait!
But in the future, they won't only be detected by these consumables. No, this will also affect the behavior of their battery. If you
Wait! If I pop a 1 minute radar on a sub, even if he's behind an island, he's gonna lose battery charge faster. So he doesn't want to get anywhere close to, even if he's playing smart behind islands, as long as I'm radaring him, his battery charge is gonna deplete. There's literally no incentive to ever do anything offensive with these ships. Nothing offensive with these ships. So there's, carrier comes into spot, you have to dive. If you don't dive, because if you don't dive, then you're gonna lose a lot of battery. So it's gonna be like, which one burns battery faster, diving or being detected by the plane? I mean, you have to dive, I guess. I mean, and then radars are gonna fuck up your battery charge as well? So the long-range radar, like, there's gonna be incentive to just blow your radar at the start, because if you happen to radar a sub, even if no one can shoot him because he's positioned behind an island, it's still gonna burn his what? This is so
detected
stupid.
in such a fashion,
This is
you
so
will be
stupid.
consuming more of the battery's lifetime in that period.
That is so
On
stupid.
the other side, since we have all of these
That is so
different ways
stupid.
of how to play against submarines, we will be removing the hydrophone to make it a bit easier for submarines in that regard. And once a submarine is actually submerging, it won't just be gone, by the snap of a finger. No, that process will be done in a gradual and linear fashion, slowly but steadily decreasing in its detectability.
Well, was there anything
The
else?
underwater menace. We will be adding a certain area. The planes will come in, drop their depth charges.
Wait, what was this? Wait, hold on.
We are also going to
Wait.
have some tools to be able to fight the underwater menace. We will be adding depth charges to almost all destroyers, apart
Almost
from a
all.
few historical premiums which historically didn't have them.
Historically? Why are they quoting history? Why are they quoting historical accuracy for excluding this from some ships? What? Wargaming, your claim to use historical accuracy as a balancing tool went out the window when you started adding Soviet fantasy ships into the game. Historical accuracy? Why do they quote it? What the? Oh, come on.
We are also going to be giving cruisers and battleships anti-submarine warfare planes. You'll be able to call a depth charge attack or strike.
They literally they quote it when it's convenient. It's like people who use the in real life argument in World of Warships. IRL, like in real life, carriers actually change the surface warfare completely, and then they ignore things like detonations or having to turn into the wind or fires or incoming artillery. They ignore everything, but in real life, carriers actually change the surface of the war. Blah, blah, blah. Like wargaming is using the same way, historical accuracy. Whenever it's convenient, they use it.
On a certain area, the planes will come in, drop their depth charges, and hopefully sink that pesky submarine.
In addition to all of this, we of course made a lot of changes, under the hood to make sure everything looks great when playing with submarines or against submarines. So
I'm sure it'll look great because our department is still the
and,
best
for example,
department.
interface elements. And as a little bit of a teaser, what else to expect from this is we are actually adding a new submarine torpedo armament, and you will be, of course, able to learn.
See, I think they hope that's going to fill people with hype and expectation, but you've been in this game for too long when that fills me with dread. It fills me with dread. Like, I'm like, oh god, what the hell have they come up with? That's when you know you've been around for too long. When it no longer is, yay, new things, it's like, oh god, new things. Are those the deepwater homing torps? I don't know. Dude. Further plans, okay, let's see. Super battleships. In one of this summer's update, a new temporary event with super battleships will take place. These are ships that hypothetically could exist if naval doctrine had historically continued the trend of using artillery ships instead of giving preeminence to carrier-based aircraft. Much like the game decided to give preeminence to carrier-based aircraft. 2 new battleships will be available in the event. Satsuma, a project based on Yamato with an increased main caliber up to 510mm guns in 4 twin turrets. Hanover, a version of the project H-42 with 483mm artillery and 4 twin gun turrets, and a secondary battery replaced with... What the hell is this? Secondary battery replaced with a 127mm universal. This is very un-German. Germans always have 2 different sets of secondaries. This is very un-German, but if it has the improved German pen, I guess it's actually 128. Fair enough. That's still very weird. Interesting. Universal. Wait, it's dual purpose? Is it? Why would they create dual purpose if they continue the trend of using artillery ship instead of Freeman as the carrier-based aircraft? Interesting. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but... During the event, players will fight on tier 9 to 10 ships and get the special resource that is necessary to go into battle on super battleships. Intelligence reports! Jesus! I mean, my teammates are gonna struggle to accumulate this resource. They are going to struggle, especially in ranked. Oh my god. That will be a lifetime work for my teammates to get intelligence reports. Like, holy shit. Imagine you're a Shima in ranked who parks full broadside to the enemy in a smoke and gets torped. How will you ever get the intelligence reports? That's never gonna happen. That's never gonna happen. It's like a flanking Vermont. How is he ever gonna get the intelligence reports? Never gonna happen. Yeah, I saw that. Basically, these are incredibly inaccurate, these ships, apparently. A new adjustment fire mechanic will be added specifically for new super battleships. An adjustment fire progress bar will be gradually filled by each salvo that hits a locked-on target or lands within a certain radius from it. When the bar is full, a certain gameplay bonus, for example a boost to main battery reload speed, is activated for a limited period of time. This can be repeated several times during battle. If the ship does not fire at enemies for some time, the progress bar is reset. So they just want you to be shooting at all times. That's really it. They just want you sitting in spawn, shooting, shooting, shooting. They really don't like stealth, do they? Thus, the commander of a super battleship will be able to receive a boost in battle, but for maximum efficiency, players will need to plan their actions and positioning in battle in advance, which will make gameplay more interesting and varied. How will this make the gameplay more interesting and varied? It just means you're spamming overmatching guns all the time. What? That doesn't make it like... What is this propaganda talk? Attack aircraft changes. We plan to improve the interaction between ships with attack aircraft of aircraft carriers. As a result, the rocket launch mechanics will be updated. Again? This has been broken since release. Now, before launching rockets, attack aircraft will fire machine guns in the direction of the subsequent rocket launch. At this moment, it's planned that machine guns won't cause damage to ships, but will simply indicate where rockets will land. This actually looks pretty good. Information about the location of rocket hits, along with increased attack time. Increased attack time is important, because if they just include it right now, it doesn't matter, because the attack time is like the difference between when you press the button and rockets arrive is something like half a second or 1 second. Even with DD rudder shift, it literally doesn't matter, because because DD rudder shift is a couple of seconds. So at the moment, it's completely wouldn't do shit. Jamming my balls in a kitchen drawer would make my day more interesting and varied. Doesn't mean it's a good thing to do. Thank you, Brit Machine. Information about the location of rocket hits will come newer ships such as destroy, directing time to the rocket strike, and engage in reducing the possible damage. Like, when was CV reworked, chat? Has it been 2 years, 3 years? They were told at release that rocket planes are the dumbest shit ever. It's taken them 2 years to finally do something about it. Does that mean that if they're actually finally nerfing something that everyone has known has been broken for so long, does that mean that their new pet project is going to be subs? Like, are they finally done with coddling CVs and they're going to start coddling subs now? That's actually really interesting because they have sunk cost fallacy in Submarines and they have sunk cost fallacy in CVs. So how are they going to balance these two? Are they just going to make both of them kind of busted and then the surface ships can go fuck themselves? I wonder how they're going to do this. This worries me a bit. The super battleships worries me because obviously they're testing two things here. First of all, they're testing this new adjustment fire mechanic, aka shoot mindlessly all the time, which doesn't honestly seem like that good of a thing. It makes sense. Once again, if it was historical, it makes sense. Like the longer you a battleship shot at a target, the better they were on zeroing in their guns. This makes sense from a historical perspective, but from a gameplay perspective, it's trash. From a gameplay perspective, it's just terrible. Okay, they show it. They show the interaction.
More about the super bat.
What if nations?
Very interesting.
Blah blah blah.
Let me take.
We can look at some pictures of these super battleships in
certain radius.
Okay.
Let's give a visual indicator as to where those rockets are going to land. Functionally, this is going to look the following way. When the attack is initiated, the attack planes are going to detach from their wing, and they're going to open up
more
fire with
important
their
than
machine guns, which,
fire,
at least for now, will not be dealing any damage to ships. This was also done historically to let pilots aim their rockets, according to their tracer fire. From a destroyer perspective, this means that you'll be able to see where the rockets are going to land.
Honestly, it's the gunfire isn't nearly as important. Like, the gunfire isn't really that big of a deal. The bigger deal is that there's an actual delay, which means that actually changing course and maneuvering allows you an option of dodging the rockets. That's really it. Yeah, the machine gun will not yet deal damage. Tracer fire is used to correct the point of aim. Yeah. Honestly, I would have preferred, once again, instead of that, if you wanted to go for some sort of historical thing, that the planes, the longer they shot their machine guns, the better their rocket aim would be. Like, the reticle would become smaller the longer they shot their machine guns. So at the same time, it allowed carriers skilled use of like they engage their machine guns, the reticle gets smaller and they get much better accuracy. But on the other hand, the DD player sees the machine gun fire landing and he knows where the rockets are being aimed. That would be a simple, a bit more complex, but a lot more engaging solution for both parties. But obviously Wargaming isn't going to go for something like that. They want the brain dead version, so they want the brain dead version where it's whatever. But too much thinking involved. Yeah. It covers the whole screen. Yeah, I looked at that machine gun fire and it was literally the entire thing. So it's like, I didn't see it being that useful. What's more useful is just the delay in the rockets landing. Right, what else do we have? What a shit show, man, honestly. What a shit show. Okay, what do we have? We have the new upcoming event, BBs. My new goal in life is to be as high as Wargaming was when they designed the new super battleships. Oh, there's a little thread making fun of how dumb the fucking... Oh my god, this is pretty funny. Like an entire line of... Satsuma has lifeboats by her X-turrets, which would be annihilated the first time the gun fires. Oh no. Oh no. Satsuma's secondary battery. Wait, what the fuck is this? Satsuma's secondary battery layout. What are these? The substitution. Okay. Why there are two 10 cm turrets side by side super firing forward is beyond me. Oh yeah, there are. What the fuck are those? That's a. Why wouldn't this be one big turret instead? What the fuck is this? Why wouldn't the naval engineers just make this one big turret that can shoot both sides instead of having one turret block the other one's firing arcs? Wow, this is okay. Yeah, this is pretty terrible. Interesting. Tsuma's superstructure is squished. Yeah, what happened to the big pagoda? The legendary pagoda. What happened to that? Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of nonsense here. Mild surprise. Mild surprise. Oh, here's a size comparison. Satsuma, Hanover, Yamato. Kind of just... Okay, why does it kind of look like someone just, you know, grabbed this guy here, like grabbed it with a tool, and then stretched it out a bit? These things are huge though, especially in this thing. These things are huge though. Interesting. I wonder if you like you farm your resource and then you get to play this against other tier 10s and shit and wreck them and feel overpowered. Is that like the gimmick? I wonder, are they gonna sell the resource that allows you to play these things? It wouldn't actually surprise me. I could, you know what, I could actually see that happening. I could actually see that happening. What they do is they sell you the resource that allows you to play these ships in randoms, and then people get to dumpster. Then you get to fight this in random battles, get dumpstered by them, and people get to wail and be overpowered. Loot boxes with these intelligence reports, yeah. That sounds plausible. I'm sorry, but that sounds plausible to me. Look, I'd love to be positive about subs. I'd love to be positive about subs, but there are so many issues, and the most important one really is the fundamental problem, which is how the hell will they implement the subs into the game and keep it fun? Because every single test has had the same issue, despite all the like questionable mechanics they've had back and forth with ships bobbing on the surface and all this nonsense. The fundamental problem that they still haven't resolved is how do you prevent the gameplay from feeling empty? How do you prevent the map from feeling abandoned when there's 3-4 subs, 3-4 DDs and a carrier, and we have like a handful of surface ships duking it out? Like, they still haven't given us an answer to that. And ranked seems an even worse situation for that. I don't know. The limit of 1 sub per battle? Yeah, like, they would have to do something like that. That's the only thing that makes any sense, but then it's like, that what's the queue gonna be like to play subs? Obviously not enough people are gonna be sitting in the queue. I feel like they put themselves in a corner, and I genuinely don't know what their solution is. Because they can't make the gameplay with more players because the servers can't handle it. I still say the best version of Submarines were the original one from Halloween, where they have to resurface a lot to replenish oxygen and normal torpedoes. Yeah. And this latest mechanic is just terrible. Like, it just looks terrible. Because this latest mechanic follows Wargaming's terrible design of incentivizing passive play. You have very strong incentive to stay undetected in your sub. Like, and staying safe. Because if you get spotted, you're gonna lose your battery power. So you don't want to be detected at all. So you just want to sit at max range, dropping torps. Because if you get detected too much, you're gonna run out of battery power, and then you're gonna be useless late game. Since they don't have any real surface guns and they're incredibly squishy, it's... Like, the Halloween Submarine gameplay was literally better gameplay than we have after 2 years of Wargaming trying to... Or what, 4 years of Wargaming trying to come up with something better. don't know what to say about that, man. I don't know what to say about that, man. Oof. Oof, really.